Hi everyone, this is Natalie with Champion of Coins Tarot. I hope that you all are doing very well today. I am here to do a post-mortem review of The Golden Tarot of the Tsar by Lo Scarabeo, originally published 2002 and still in print for about $25 on Amazon in the US. This is a post-mortem review because I no longer have the deck. However, this has been the most highly requested video that people have asked me to make over the last 6 years. And because I have been diving back into the world of Russian iconography and Russian art history in preparation for another review, I revisited that video, and I feel like now is a good time for me to be able to answer some of those frequently asked questions. To explain the positives about the Golden Tarot of the Tsar, and also to explain why it was ultimately not a deck for me and why I no longer have it in my collection. I'm going to try to do some editing magic and to put some pictures of the deck onto the screen here, so that way you can get a sense of what I am talking about specifically, if this is a new deck to you, and I will also leave the original video linked down below. So the Golden Tarot of the Tsar was from the Gilded era of Lo Scarabeo decks, in which they were making decks that were either restorations of pre-existing art, or were making decks that had new art that were in alignment with a specific historical or cultural theme. Golden Tarot of the Tsar is a love letter to Orthodox Christian iconography. They are not portraying real icons, but the artist A.A. Atanasov did a tarot deck in that particular style to great effect. It is an absolutely beautiful artistic achievement. The gilding is just absolutely sumptuous. It's a beautiful aesthetic experience. It feels like when you open up the deck, you are stepping into this world of a Orthodox cathedral and really losing yourself in that imagery. Also, the associations with every single tarot card related to either a biblical story or related to a story about a saint or figure in Orthodox religious history is masterful. This is the best example that I have seen so far of a deck that adapts Christian imagery and adapts Christian mythos to the tarot system in a way that is not only seamless, but also perfectly encapsulates the essence of the story and simultaneously the essence of the tarot card. Nothing feels shoehorned in, nothing feels as though it is there without a particular purpose, and nothing feels as though it is a misinterpretation of the culture, of the religious tradition that it is there to represent. This is not necessarily an educational tool. Like, I have seen some decks that try to map religious symbolism onto tarot with. This is not a deck that is there to teach you about the history of Christianity. This is not a deck that is necessarily there to teach you about a coherent system or worldview. This is a deck that assumes that you have a baseline knowledge and understanding of those things already. And so in that sense, it is a difficult deck if you do not have a particular background or base of knowledge in either Orthodox Christianity itself and the various branches like Greek Orthodox or Russian Orthodox, or if you don't have a baseline understanding of Catholicism, which is the other branch of Christianity that it is most closely related to. if you are someone who is Protestant and you have not grown up with this deep understanding of saints and this deep understanding of folk tales and mythology and religious syncretism within a Christian space, then you're probably not going to be able to readily enter into it. You're going to have to do research. Similarly, if you are a non-Christian, you are also going to have to do a lot of research in order to understand, because the deck is not there necessarily to educate. The deck is there to be what it is, if that makes sense. And that was the point of the first video that I made about it, was to be able to break down every single biblical reference and every single reference to a particular saint and how that colors the interpretation of the tarot, and also how the particular tarot association might color your perception of that biblical figure or of that saint. And so in that way, I think that the deck is really masterful. Because it's one that requires a lot of study if you don't already have that baseline understanding, but it is so well done and so spot on that, again, you're not losing any of the essence of tarot, and you're also not losing any of the essence of Orthodox Christianity. It really is kind of the perfect religious deck in that sense. So why I do not have the deck anymore is because I am no longer Christian. When I made that review, I was in a transitory period of my life where I was moving away from my Catholic upbringing. I was interested in Judaism in an academic sense, but at that point I had not yet made the decision to convert to Judaism. And there were just a few months when I was using that deck in 2017 for personal use, where I was asking myself a lot of really deep questions about what I actually believed in and what the next step for me would be. And in working with the deck, I realized and kind of emotionally came to terms with and released Catholicism. I released Christianity. I realized that as beautiful as the deck was, as wonderful as it was to be able to see how this language of iconography and like this language of Christianity was translated into tarot, it was not one that I was ever going to use for myself, because I realized that I no longer believed in the religious teachings that the deck was born out of. Again, not necessarily that it conveys, because I don't think that it's meant to be a primer to Christianity for anyone. I think, again, it just is something that is so intrinsically tied into that system itself that it's almost impossible to really separate from. And so I realized that this is not one that I was going to use because I didn't believe in it. And I held on to the deck for several years as a collector's item, kind of as this scholarly achievement, in much the same way that I have held on to decks that try to marry other religious traditions to tarot symbolism. It was really just an object, again, of fascination, of study, but not one that I was going to personally use for myself. And in the end, I actually gifted it to the very same person who owned the deck originally. So I talked about it a little bit in the first video that I made about the Golden Tarot of the Tsar. It came into my life because a friend of mine purchased it for me as a gift from a secondhand shop. And a few years later, I actually met the person who had donated the deck to the secondhand shop, and we became best friends and are still best friends to this day. And when I was moving away from my old home and moving to Oklahoma, I gifted the deck back to her. And she is using it and she is loving it. So in the end, like, everything really turned out for the best. The deck went on this full circle journey. I also, use the experience of working with this deck as a catalyst to really deeply transform my life. But I don't think that it is necessarily good or beneficial for me to hold on to decks if I am not using them. It's not good for me personally to collect decks for the sake of collecting them and to have this feeling that I need to have a Christian deck, I need to have a Jewish deck, I need to have a Hindu deck, I need to have this, that, and the other thing in my collection. If a tool is not useful for me, right? If this does not align with my own belief system, or if this does not help me to be able to deepen my spiritual practice, then I don't want to hold on to it, if that makes sense. So overall, do I think that the deck is absolutely successful on its own terms? Yes, I think that if you are somebody who is a Christian tarot reader, this would be absolutely indispensable for you. Again, particularly if you are Orthodox or if you are Catholic, because it is so lovingly done. There really is nothing else that compares to it. If you are somebody who is looking for a tool, again, that is the perfect marriage and the perfect synthesis of tarot and Christian belief. If you are not a person who is Christian, or if that is not the kind of tarot deck that resonates with you spiritually, don't do it, because it's not going to be a deck that you are going to be able to do a general reading with. It is so of itself and so impossible to be able to separate those two elements to have a secular working deck that I would not recommend it. And the same way that I would recommend the Russian Tarot of St. Petersburg, which is an example of Russian iconography, but is much more secular and is intended to be an educational device about Russian culture and about Russian history more broadly. If you are somebody who does really enjoy collecting and having a deck that represents every single tradition is important to you, even if you don't follow those traditions or even if you don't plan on using it, then absolutely, this is one of the most beautiful decks I have ever encountered, purely from an aesthetic standpoint. And if that's what you're looking for in a tarot experience, then it's absolutely beautiful. But again, if you are somebody who is not Christian or formerly Christian or what have you, and working with that imagery is not something that is personally beneficial to your practice, then I would say you can skip out on the Golden Tarot of the Tsar. So this was definitely, again, a very different type of review video, given the fact that I don't have the deck to be able to show you. But this is my most frequently requested video, and I hope that this was able to clear up some of the outstanding questions and to dive into the working experience of the deck. It just is not something that was resonant for me, even though it was profoundly important on my spiritual journey and ultimately helped me to get to where I am now. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions down below. If you still have the Golden Tarot of the Tsar, or if you don't have the Golden Tarot of the Tsar, I would be very curious to hear how it functions in other people's worlds. And as always, I am sending you much love and many blessings. Bye.